There's a silent command you've been conditioned to obey since you were a child, more influential than any religion, more effective at producing obedience than any government in history. Nobody says it directly. They slip it into your behavior until it becomes part of who you are. Be pleasant, be polite, be agreeable. They claim it makes you a good person. But what if that goodness had nothing to do with morality at all? What if it was always about control? Every kingdom, every institution, every authority throughout history has relied on one psychological truth. An agreeable population is an easily governed one. A man terrified of offending someone will never rebel. A man who needs to be liked will never rise. Machiavelli saw this long before you were alive. He watched civilizations crumble, not because enemies invaded them, but because the men inside lacked the courage to refuse demands. Men who confused approval with respect. Men too soft to lead, too compliant to survive. So he wrote something rulers feared more than any uprising. A book that whispered the forbidden truth. If you want to rule, stop trying to be loved. The church banned it. Kings condemned it because it revealed the secret they needed hidden. Niceness is the leash around your neck. And here you are, 500 years later, still wearing that leash proudly, saying sorry when you've done nothing wrong, smiling at jokes that belittle you, agreeing to favors that drain your time and energy, terrified of being labeled rude. Look around you. Every powerful man you admire, leaders, conquerors, visionaries, shares one trait. They are willing to be disliked. They don't chase approval. They command respect. Society will shame you for stepping outside the box. They'll call you arrogant, cold, unkind. But they hurled the same insults at every strong man who refused to kneel. Here is the truth Machiavelli tried to give you. You cannot be powerful and pleasing at the same time. You must choose, because the moment you stop caring about being liked, something happens. You become free. You become unpredictable. You become dangerous. You become you. What you're about to hear isn't self-improvement. It's battlefield instruction, a guide for destroying the weakest version of yourself, the obedient pleaser who fears rejection more than failure. You were never meant to be agreeable. You were meant to be formidable. So if you want power, you must kill the people pleaser within you. Not later, not slowly. Now, because the longer he survives, the smaller you become. There is a quiet epidemic consuming modern men. It doesn't damage the body, it weakens the will. It keeps the mind sharp, but the spirit submissive. Machiavelli would have recognized it instantly. A political sickness disguised as virtue. Most men never realize they're infected. They mistake their politeness for morality. They confuse silence with wisdom. They label their self-sacrifice as noble. But behind the mask is the truth. People-pleasing is fear wearing a friendly smile. Where the infection begins, this sickness doesn't begin in adulthood. It starts the first time you're punished for saying no. The first time you're told you're difficult. The first time you're praised for keeping quiet. You're taught early that approval equals safety. You're taught that making others uncomfortable makes you bad. You're conditioned to think conflict is dangerous and harmony sacred. So you adapt. You suppress your anger. You shrink your instincts. You trade your desires for what makes others comfortable. This eventually becomes a habit, then a belief, then an identity. And the world applauds you for it. You're such a good boy. You're so easygoing. You're so cooperative. They praise the illness because it makes you predictable. It makes you safe. It makes you someone who will never threaten their comfort. How the sickness shows up. By adulthood, the infection is fully grown. It reveals itself in subtle, automatic ways. You apologize reflexively, even when you're not wrong. You agree with people you don't respect just to avoid tension. You stay in draining relationships because loneliness scares you more than misery. You work harder than everyone else, but speak up less than anyone. You tolerate insults, delays, disrespect, and convince yourself it's not worth the fight. Everything becomes not a big deal until one day you realize your entire life has been lived in that phrase. Meanwhile, the people you tried so hard to please keep taking, not because they're cruel, but because you've shown them they can. This disease doesn't make others kinder, it makes them bolder. Why the people pleaser always loses. You think your niceness earns appreciation. It doesn't. People don't interpret kindness the way you imagine. If you can't say no, they assume you have no boundaries. If you avoid conflict, they assume you won't fight for yourself. If you rush to help everyone, they assume your time is worthless. If you're always available, they assume you're not important. Humans don't react to kindness. They react to consequence, to limits, to cost. A man without boundaries doesn't earn respect. He begs for it. This is the fatal error of the people pleaser. He tries to buy respect using kindness. But kindness is free, and what is free has no value. The world rewards scarcity, not softness. Conviction, not compliance. Strength, not sweetness. And every man knows this deep down. Even the people pleaser feels it. That dull exhaustion, that quiet resentment, that sense of being invisible. He's living inside a fantasy, while everyone else is playing by real rules. The psychological trap. The people pleaser isn't simply nice. He's addicted to approval, addicted to comfort, addicted to avoiding discomfort at all costs. Every yes gives him a moment of relief, a small hit of peace that says, at least no one is upset with me, but the long-term cost is devastation. He trades self-respect for temporary harmony, integrity for momentary approval, his entire future for comfort in the present. And the cruelest part? He thinks he's being noble, but there is nothing noble about weakness. Nothing moral about smiling through lies. Nothing righteous about sacrificing yourself for people who wouldn't sacrifice a minute for you. The breaking point. Eventually, every people pleaser hits the same wall. The moment where the polite mask fractures and years of buried frustration spill out. Because behind every overly nice man is someone carrying a lifetime of swallowed anger. Not because others mistreated him, but because he never defended himself. That's the disease. Not what people did to you, but what you allowed. Once you see that, you cannot unsee it. Niceness is the quality the world exploits most because they recognize it instantly, not as virtue, but as vulnerability. A polite man thinks he's doing the right thing. Everyone else sees someone who won't fight back. Humans are drawn, instinctively, to the path of least resistance, and the people pleaser is always the path that bends. You can spot the pattern everywhere. The nice man becomes the one who stays late when everyone else leaves. The friend who rearranges his life while no one adjusts theirs. The partner who pours reassurance endlessly and receives none. Not because they don't care about him, but because they don't fear losing him. Respect comes from boundaries. Niceness comes from the absence of them. And a man without boundaries becomes a convenience. Something people use when useful and ignore when not. The people pleaser believes kindness inspires gratitude. But kindness without cost creates entitlement. When you give too easily, people don't think, he's so kind. They think, he'll keep doing it. The first favor feels appreciated. The 10th becomes routine. The 30th turns into an unspoken obligation. And the moment you hesitate, the moment you even think about refusing, people look at you like you violated some invisible agreement they never had to sign. Niceness reshapes people. It conditions them. It teaches them that your time has no limits, your patience has no ceiling, and your boundaries barely exist. Once they get accustomed to that version of you, the always available, eternally accommodating version, they won't simply adjust when you try to reclaim yourself. They'll push back. They'll accuse you of becoming difficult. They'll insist you've changed. But the truth is, you're not changing. You're ending the performance they benefited from. Humans sense hierarchy long before they consciously understand it. They place people above or below them based on behavior, not intention. A man who never resists, never asserts himself, never creates friction, he gets mentally stored at the bottom. Not because he's disliked, but because he signals that this is where he belongs. People respond to signals, not hopes. Look at the ones who naturally command respect. They aren't abrasive for fun. They are simply unafraid of disappointing others. That's the real distinction. They don't beg for approval, so their presence carries weight. They don't worship harmony, so their words land with force. They don't run from conflict, so their boundaries remain unbroken. Even their silence feels more solid than a people-pleaser's enthusiastic agreement. People assume confidence demands respect. It doesn't. Consequence does. If crossing you costs nothing, you cannot command respect. Only wish for it. People don't respect what bends too easily. They respect what holds its line. Niceness is the opposite of that. Niceness folds. Niceness absorbs. Niceness takes the punch and smiles afterward. And once someone sees that you can absorb every hit without responding, they stop believing you can ever swing back. Eventually, every people-pleaser reaches a breaking point. It looks like fatigue, but it's deeper than exhaustion. It's the realization that his entire personality has been engineered around avoiding other people's disappointment. He suddenly sees how often he agreed when he didn't want to, how often he showed up where he wasn't valued, how often he tolerated actions that would have made a stronger man walk away. And the resentment he feels is not toward others, it's toward himself for letting it happen. That resentment is the death rattle of the false self. The mask is splitting, the truth is leaking through. Because every man who tries to please everyone eventually confronts the person he neglected the most, himself. Niceness gets a man used because the world only respects those who respect themselves. And self-respect is not loud or boastful. It's the quiet ability to say no without guilt, without nervous laughter, without over-explaining. It's the refusal to shrink yourself so someone else can remain comfortable. It's choosing to disappoint others instead of betraying yourself. Niceness won't save you. Strength will. Boundaries will. Selective coldness will. And the moment you stop offering your life as a discount service, the world will adjust. Slowly, reluctantly, but inevitably. People stop using you only when you stop being usable. Here's why rudeness has been demonized. Not because it's evil, but because it threatens the systems that feed on your obedience. From childhood, they told you that being rude is the worst offense. Not lying, not manipulation, not cowardice. Rudeness. The slightest firmness was punished. The smallest sign of a backbone was labeled attitude. They didn't fear cruelty. They feared a man who could say no without flinching. Because a man who can say no cannot be controlled. Rudeness, in its pure form, is simply the refusal to bend. It's rejecting the unspoken rule that you must always be pleasant. It's the willingness to let others feel disappointed. And that, more than anything, is what makes it powerful. The world does not rearrange itself for the agreeable. It bends for the unyielding. The ones who get what they want aren't the most pleasant. They're the ones who cannot be ignored. A firm tone is interpreted as strength. A direct statement is seen as authority. A clear refusal is mistaken for danger. Even the smallest act of blunt honesty changes the dynamic instantly. People stop assuming, they stop demanding, they start recalibrating, because suddenly you're not predictable. You're not pliable. You're not safe. And humans respect what they can no longer predict. This is why rudeness feels like power, not because of sharp words, but because of the boundary behind them. You've seen this play out everywhere. The coworker who says, "I'm not doing that," is treated like he outranks the one who always agrees. The man who declines an invitation is seen as more valuable than the one who accepts everything. The woman who says, "This doesn't work for me," is taken more seriously than the one who suffers silently. People won't say this out loud, but they behave as if it's true. The one who refuses is the one with value. Rudeness, real rudeness, is simply the courage to prioritize yourself openly. It's not aggression. It's not cruelty. It's clarity. A man willing to be blunt sends a chilling message. I cannot be guilt-tripped. Guilt is society's favorite leash. Guilt keeps you polite. Guilt keeps you small. But the moment guilt loses its grip on you, the whole power structure flips. Suddenly, others are the ones adjusting around you. Here's the psychological truth no one admits. People tolerate bluntness from the powerful, but condemn it in the weak. If a dominant man snaps, it's called intensity. If a timid man does it, he's called disrespectful. Why? Because power legitimizes bluntness. Weakness does not. This is why kindness strengthens a powerful man, but destroys a weak one. For the strong, kindness is a choice. For the weak, kindness is a survival tactic. Rudeness changes that instantly. It tells the world, my kindness is now optional, not automatic. It introduces friction, and friction forces recalibration. Say something blunt and the cost of interaction rises. Refuse politely, and it rises again. State a boundary without apology, and it reaches its rightful height. Suddenly, you're not the discounted version of yourself. You're full price. That's why rudeness feels like liberation. Not because you become cruel, but because you finally defend your worth. Most people won't like this new version of you. They'll complain you're rude, difficult, arrogant. They aren't describing you. They're describing their loss of access. Rudeness is simply locking the doors others used to walk through without knocking. Once they realize you're no longer afraid of disappointing them, everything changes. They think twice before asking. They pull back demands. They choose their words carefully. They start treating your time like it matters. They show respect, not because you became nicer, but because you became immovable. That's the true power of rudeness. It restores balance. It returns you to yourself. It signals that your life is no longer public property. You stop being the cushion that absorbs every blow and become the wall they cannot push. And in a world built on pressure and expectation, there is nothing more powerful than the man who refuses to bend. Becoming disagreeable is not about hostility. It's about reclaiming the authority you quietly surrendered over years of trying to be easy, flexible, patient, and endlessly reasonable. The world told you that being adaptable made you admirable, that being accommodating made you mature, that being agreeable made you good. But here's the truth. A man who fears disagreement fears himself. And a man who fears himself will never be powerful. The transformation begins when you realize conflict is not danger, it's data. People avoid disagreement not because they are peaceful, but because they are fragile. They crumble the moment someone pushes back. They panic when their approval is threatened. They retreat the second tension rises, as if tension itself proves they've done something wrong. This is the conditioning you must break. You must learn to stand inside the heat of disapproval without flinching. Let people be irritated. Let them misunderstand you. Let them feel disappointed. Their emotions are not your assignment. Their expectations are not your commands. Their reactions are not your burden. Your only responsibility is your sovereignty. Once you stop scrambling to appease, something interesting happens. You realize disagreement almost never becomes dangerous. People only push hard when they believe you'll collapse fast. When you stop collapsing, they stop pushing. The threat you feared was never real. It lived only in your imagination. The next stage is truth without decoration, not cruelty, not emotional aggression, just blunt, clean honesty. This doesn't work for me. I'm not available. That's not my responsibility. I disagree. These are simple sentences. Yet to the people pleaser, they feel nuclear because they destroy the version of you that depended on softness to survive. They break the pattern others relied on. They signal that your compliance is no longer guaranteed. At first, guilt will claw at you. You'll feel the urge to over-explain, soften your tone, apologize for existing. Do not go back to that. Your job is not to manage reactions. Your job is to tell the truth. Over time, a new identity forms, an identity that no longer uses excessive politeness as a shield. You begin choosing silence over forced agreement. You prioritize your own comfort over the comfort of those who drain you. You stop volunteering yourself. You stop accepting out of obligation. You stop pretending everything is fine when every fiber of you says otherwise. And people will notice. Some will respect you more. Some will resent you. Those who fed on your softness will call you rude, cold, selfish. Understand something. When you stop sacrificing yourself, people call it betrayal. Their disappointment is not a sign you're wrong. It's a sign you finally stopped being wrong. True transformation comes when you recognize this. Disagreeableness, the willingness to stand firm, confront reality, refuse requests, and hold the line, is the foundation of all power. Every respected leader, every influential figure, every man with presence shares one trait. They are willing to create friction. They don't chase harmony. They don't fear tension. They don't shrink to fit the room. They let the room reshape around them. And once you do this, your presence shifts. People speak to you differently. They anticipate boundaries instead of assuming access. They consider your time valuable. They think twice before placing weight on your shoulders. You become someone who must be approached with intention, not expectation. This is power. Your boundaries altering behavior, your presence imposing structure, your reactions holding weight. Disagreeableness is not darkness. It is clarity. It is living without betraying yourself. What you called kindness for years was rarely kindness. It was fear, a strategy, a way to survive by staying small. You softened your voice to avoid provoking anyone. You agreed quickly so no one would call you difficult. You suppressed your needs so you never became a burden. That is not kindness, that is disappearance. And a man who disappears eventually becomes someone the world no longer sees at all. Reclaiming yourself begins once you kill the people pleaser inside you. First, you reclaim your time. You stop giving it away like a discount item. You stop rearranging your entire day for people who wouldn't move a minute for you. You begin asking the question the old you never asked. Is this worth my life? Then you reclaim your voice, the one that doesn't tremble. You stop lying to avoid conflict. You stop pretending everything is fine. You start speaking truth in its cleanest form. Next, you reclaim your presence. You stop entering rooms like a guest in your own life. You stop shrinking to appear harmless. Your posture shifts from "I hope I'm acceptable" to "I stand alone if I must." Then you reclaim your standards, the thing the people pleaser never had. You stop accepting crumbs. You stop tolerating disrespect. You stop staying in situations that drain you just to avoid discomfort. You start walking away, not dramatically, not emotionally, just decisively. And this is where people pull back, not because you've become mean, but because you've stopped being convenient. When you develop standards, you stop being easy. And the moment you stop being easy, you force the world to reveal itself. Effort becomes the filter. Those who vanish were never yours. They were loyal to your compliance, not your character. Let them disappear. Their absence creates room for those who value you as a person, not a utility. But the greatest thing you reclaim is something internal. Permission. Permission to take up space. Permission to disappoint. Permission to say no without guilt. Permission to choose yourself without apology. Once you grant yourself that permission, you become untouchable in a way no performance, no bravado, no posture could ever create. You stop chasing validation because you validate yourself. You stop fearing abandonment because you no longer abandon yourself. This shift doesn't make you ruthless. It makes you sovereign. A sovereign man is dangerous, not because he seeks control over others, but because he cannot be controlled by others. He is guided by internal laws, not external pressure. And when this version of you emerges, the world adjusts. People become more careful around you, more respectful, more deliberate. They no longer walk into your life casually. They no longer assume access. They no longer assume agreement, because now you have a spine, and that spine has a cost. This is the beginning of power. Not power over others, but mastery over yourself. The man who commands himself commands his environment. And the man who commands his environment reshapes the trajectory of his life permanently. Eventually, something deep inside you shifts. You stop negotiating with yourself. You stop begging the world for permission it was never going to give. You stop translating your desires into softer versions so others won't feel threatened. What emerges is a man who can no longer be bent, manipulated, or guilt-tripped into submission. His power is quiet, cold, precise. It comes from the absence of fear, not the presence of aggression. He no longer performs friendliness. He no longer fills silence to make others comfortable. He no longer softens the truth for approval. His presence speaks before he does. People feel it immediately. There is gravity to him now, a weight that wasn't there before. His stillness says more than his old self ever could. And the world responds accordingly. The strong respect him. The insecure fear him. Those who fed on his softness resent him. But none of it shakes him anymore. His value is no longer external. It lives inside his chest, untouchable. Being unapologetic doesn't mean you've stopped caring. It means you've stopped contorting. You've stopped sacrificing yourself for peace that always cost you too much. You no longer fear being misunderstood because you finally understand yourself. You no longer fear being alone because you finally enjoy your own company. You no longer fear disappointing people because you finally stopped disappointing yourself. This terrifies people because once you no longer crave approval, the world loses its leverage over you. They cannot guilt you. They cannot shame you. They cannot manipulate you with the fear of being disliked. You've stepped outside the psychological cage they built to keep you predictable. And now, you're not predictable anymore. Your relationships change. You no longer tolerate half-effort, conditional respect, or one-sided loyalty. You stop entertaining people who appear only when they need something. And the moment someone realizes you won't bend, won't beg, won't cling, the dynamic either evolves or ends. Those who stay treat you with the seriousness you always deserved. Those who leave were nourished by your weakness, not your warmth. Your decisions change. You stop choosing the safe option just to avoid upsetting others. You stop shrinking your ambitions to keep the peace. Every choice becomes sharper, cleaner, more honest. You begin building a life aligned with who you are, not who you pretended to be. Your standards change. You stop explaining why something is unacceptable. You stop repeating boundaries. You stop negotiating with people who weren't negotiating in good faith to begin with. You never raise your voice, because raised voices are a weapon for men who lack real authority. You simply walk away, and walking away becomes the loudest declaration of self-respect you've ever made. The rise of the unapologetic self is not flashy or dramatic. It is quiet. It is internal. It is the death of the boy who needed permission, and the birth of the man who doesn't. It's the collapse of the identity that kept you useful to everyone but yourself. And then, something irreversible happens. You stop living reactively. You start living architecturally. You design. You choose. You lead. You no longer wait to be chosen. You choose yourself and let the world adjust. This version of you is not rude. He is undeniable, not aggressive, uncompromising, not cruel, unbreakable. You've come far. You've watched the weaker version of yourself crack and collapse. And now you stand as someone the world can no longer mold or guilt into obedience. But understand this. Transformation is not a single moment. It's a war. And the world will try every day to drag you back into the role you once played. The obedient one. The quiet one. The easy one. Do not go back. Hold your ground. Protect your voice. Choose yourself first. Not once. Every day. Because the rise of the unapologetic self is not a phase. It's a declaration. From this point forward, your life will no longer be shaped by approval, fear, or expectation. Only by your will. If anything in this awakened you, if a single sentence cracked the shell you've been hiding in, then stay with me. There is more to build, more to destroy, more to reclaim. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and step into the next chapter with the same ruthless clarity you found here today.